we should be live. Let me double check. Have you so have you been in this whole crazy shelter in place thing going on?
Man, it has been a roller coaster. It's been crazy.
Gee, so you're working from home now, right?
Yes, and then no, and then yes again.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
yeah, it is what it is.
Cool. So we're live. Everything's good. You have you ran into any craziness at the supermarket? Like when I went, there was like toilet paper on the floor. Like that hasn't been put on the shelves yet, but it wasn't completely empty. That was the last time I went.
I've been avoiding at all costs. Jessica did a run where she did an order. She made an order at Walmart and went and picked up at the
Oh yeah,
curb.
that's a
So
service.
she said she pulled up and she was waiting about 20 minutes, and then they walked it out to her and they put it in the car. So it was no hassle. She didn't have to go in or anything. I thought that was really cool.
That's
The
good.
one experience I had with getting out of the house to get something, I was trying to get a wired keyboard for remote working needs. And Best Buy has their stuff together, man. They know what they're doing.
Oh,
They
that's
have
good.
systems set up. We had a guy out in the parking lot under a tent. He came over to the car, stood about 7 feet away. I rolled down the window, told him what I needed. He had someone from inside the store call me. Like they got the
Oh,
plan made out. They know what they're doing. So
that was good. That's fast
yeah.
too.
Hmm.
That's good to know. Yeah, I haven't been out so much recently. We did a bunch of grocery shopping because it was like, okay, we should get these things. It's getting kind of hairy. And then that night, more news came out. I was like, well, I guess I should get more things. And then it just kept evolving. I was like, oh my god, now we're pretty good. Which has been affecting what we're gonna talk about, pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So as of okay, let's go over what's going on right now in the industry. It's all the two major productions, WWE and AEW, are doing closed arenas, no fans, right?
Right.
This is in North America, by the way. I think Stardom did a couple no arenas or no fans, and then I think New Japan just canceled outright. Uh, so I think AEW seems to be doing a little better job at adapting. Like they really changed their production and how it looked, and I don't know. You've been so how have you been watching all the product? What have you been watching?
We've been watching closely Raw, AEW, and NXT.
Okay.
Um, so I can tell you, like, the thing I've noticed between them is that we just talked about this last night. That AEW, because they have an open air arena, it doesn't feel like it's an empty crowd because a lot of their sound isn't doing a reverb. You're not getting a lot of echo inside the arena, so it feels like it's still got a crowd, even though there's not a crowd there. And they also did this thing last week where they had a lot of the boys from the back, a lot of the wrestlers in the front rows sitting around the ring, and they were just heckling whoever was wrestling at the time. Like MJF was making bets on wrestlers, and yeah, it was
Yeah,
Shawn Spears was
him
trying
and
to bet.
Spears.
Yeah, so
So
that was really fun, but it didn't detract too much from the matches. I didn't think.
you need a little like pop. You know what I mean? You need a little bit of an audience, unless you're doing something very cinematic and kind of weird, which can be done. Um, I've been watching a little bit of it here and there. I don't because I don't have cable. I just catch bits of it online. I get the pay per views when I can. So WrestleMania is gonna be 2 nights and closed circuit, right? Apparently they're filming now.
Man, it's going to be the weirdest WrestleMania I think that's ever been, and they're going to have to do some stuff. It's going to have to be special because otherwise, I don't see the point in like not just postponing WrestleMania because I think that would have been the wise thing to do at this point. It's WrestleMania. You want tens of thousands of people in the arena. You want to have a big event, and it seems like the only way you're going to be able to get that done is to wait a couple months, wait several months even, for things to start clearing up.
If you want that live pop, yeah, I can see it. Like I think there's an opportunity for them to go super cinematic. Like give me the wrestler. level of art direction, and then maybe it'll turn out kind of cool because it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
There, you don't have an audience, then take advantage of that situation. Do retakes. You can reshoot things. You can get like 5 takes and take the best one and cut it together and do some cool angles and stuff like that. You just know it's not live, so why bother?
Yeah, I think my buddy Jamie Aller, who's probably watching this right now, he'd mentioned to me like we were watching the promos for the AJ Styles and Undertaker thing, and that thing is going to be gimmick heavy, probably super cinematic. Probably the same with the Fiend and John Cena too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't imagine those being like not super produced, high quality, almost cinematic experiences.
give it to me. Give it to me. At this point, why not?
Hmm.
It'd be kind of cool because they
I
did
think,
it with. They've done it before, right?
yeah, they had a match with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt
Yeah,
before
that
he
was
was.
produced.
That was a couple of years ago, and it was like they went to the old house and they had like a fight inside the house, and then Randy Orton burned it down at the end of the match, which is just like it was weird, but it was entertaining, you know.
Yeah,
And if they were to do that right, I think it would be good.
I think the
But
stuff Matt was doing on his own was a good way of doing it. You know what I
hmm
mean?
yeah,
They know how to film it. They know how to shoot it. To play it really, really safe, but it's entertaining. It doesn't have to be live, so uh, it just looks dope. You know, we'll see what happens. I wonder who's making that call.
yeah,
But AEW's doing so. They postponed their Blood and Guts
smart,
event,
smart.
which I like. I like that it's an event that's non pay per view, but it's an event. You know,
Hmm.
because they don't have any. They're looking at what 5, 6 pay per views a year. I forget if there's a number, but it's not every month, right?
Yeah, NWA and WCW used to do that a lot too, and they've taken a lot of cues from WCW. And I think that when you have a TV event that's special, people don't have to pay money for it. They feel like something can happen at the event. You know, like it's a special event, something can happen. It's not like a typical Wednesday night. There's
Yeah,
a chance that, some titles might change hands, someone might get hurt,
that's
some
true.
you're gonna have like some crazy outcome that you've never expected to see before. I think that doing an event like Blood and Guts is probably going to be really great when it happens, but it's really smart on their part to delay it because I think with that sort of a match, you want to have a bunch of people there. You want to have a full arena of people
You
to
need it.
react to what's going on.
Yeah, you kind of need it at that point. But that's been interesting as so. How do I've been looking at AEW as a multi-ring circus. Um, you kind of have the old school NWA Nightmare Family kind of soap opera, and then um, which also includes the Inner Circle is kind of like pro wrestling soap opera, and then you have like, some of the comedy acts. They're kind of comedy, but they're still really good. Um, Dark Order's been turned around a bit. You know what I mean? It's a little
I
more
hope
edgy.
I hope so.
Yeah, it seems cool. That's a really good one, and I don't know, like they seem multifaceted. If you don't like all of it, that's okay because you'll like a good portion of it. If you don't like parts of it, you can still appreciate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what makes it a good show is that you might not be into every part of it, but there's at least whenever you watch a show, there's at least one or two things that you can take away from it and be like, I was highly entertained by that. And if I can tune into a show and one segment of it locks me in and I can watch, I think that that's better than watching an entire show and being bored the whole time. And that's happened to me before with wrestling, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It gets I've seen it happen to companies I've been in or interacted with, where senior leadership is really out of touch and really far removed from the day to day and the pulse of what how a company should be run and entertained and who should be listened to.
Yeah.
Like just think of your workplace, any one of
No
them.
comment.
You're like, oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah, yeah, that's right there.
Yeah.
You watch a lot of things like work around. It's interesting because for a while the WWE was the forefront. I think that's how the UFC got sold. I think so. I heard somewhere, this is from Chael, so who knows? This is from Chael, and he said that at one point the UFC brass said we just copy what WWE do. If they're in the pay per view market, we're in the pay per view market. If they get into streaming, we get into streaming. If they like apparel, we get into apparel. And so they did all of that. And if you watched right before the sale, all these things happened. It's like really rushed. It's like, oh, okay, like you're gonna launch a uniform line, a streaming service, and this and that, and like, oh, okay, all at once. And then the sale happened like a year later. Like, oh, that's what you're doing. You're making the company look nice for sale. And so when you watch big companies that way, you can kind of see things happen to other places too. So we'll see. Like, I think WrestleMania is a good opportunity to show what they can do. Like, we'll see who runs the shit. Have you seen? So have you been watching Raw and SmackDown at all?
I do watch Raw.
Okay.
And I usually watch SmackDown. I watch the Hulu version, so it's condensed.
Oh, okay.
I'm missing some stuff from it, but I have a pretty good grasp of what's going on.
Which is kind of sad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of sad, especially from their main show.
I feel like right now SmackDown is the better show.
Okay.
I enjoy it more. And I think I enjoy it more because it's condensed on the Hulu version. I don't know. I feel like with shorter shows, like you get a 1 hour or a 2 hour show, you don't have to worry about losing interest too quickly.
It's hard. Yeah.
When you have 3 or more hours, you're marathoning something at that point, and it becomes harder to watch after 2 hours.
Yeah, unless you're really good at pacing it a certain way, but I think you need to have a variety of acts instead of like NXT. I feel be all wrestling. It's like, well, you need like wrestling, promo, skit, events. But yeah, 3 hours is hard. That's a long time to do it. That's not. And SmackDown is 2 hours, right? Or an hour?
SmackDown's 2.
2 hours. Okay.
Yeah, but the Hulu condensed is 1.
Wow, you lose a whole hour?
Yeah. Well, they cut. I think they either cut matches or because they cut all the commercials, it's just.
Yeah, it's just solid hour. Show. I can see that.
Yeah.
It's not so bad. Have you been following any of the New Japan stuff?
Man, I haven't been caught up in New Japan since Wrestle Kingdom.
Oh, okay. I think not much happened. They tried some things and then it just kind of like, oh, this happened.
Well, they're shutting right now, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
There've been, but I think Stardom ran a no arena or no fan show, which was the bit I saw was great because she called out to Liger and Liger called back to her, like because he was announcing.
Nice.
So that happened. I was like, okay, that's a way to do an empty arena and make it kind of lively. You just need kind of lively people in the arena with them, which I think that's why AEW dumped everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's been interesting. Let's see what's going on over there. Oh, they're doing Naito 2 champ, which I think is a play on McGregor 2 champ, double champ. Mm-hmm. Did WWE did one? A champ?
Like recent?
Yeah, recently.
They had Becky 2 belts.
Oh yeah, that was right. Mm-hmm. All at the same time.
It's been a while though.
Huh?
It's been a while since that happened though.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's been a while since McGregor was champ. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're doing that, which is I felt like is a great. Did you follow that storyline at all of Naito?
I did. Yeah, I love Naito. I wish I could be watching more New Japan right now. It's just when you watch so much American wrestling during the week,
it's so much.
There's so much. Like
so much.
So New Japan is almost like a special event for me. It's almost like a once every 3 months watch an event.
Yeah. Same here, but I'll throw in. That's not a big deal. But those big events over the years are really good. Like Wrestle Kingdom was really, really good, especially if you look back at like Naito's like full history. Because that to me, that's like long term storytelling. I'm not sure how much it was set up originally, but like how Naito started as he was supposed to be the new ace, but couldn't cut it, and then he went to Mexico and found himself, and then he came back, and now he's champ. So I was like, because last he was supposed to win last year, and I was like, oh, this should have been it. Did you watch last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that should have been it. Like that should have been his crowning achievement, and then this happens. Like, all right, you know what? Good call.
There's long term storytelling, and then there's super long term storytelling, and I think Japan is more into the super long term than American wrestling is.
It kind of falls into how they do comics as well, if you think about it. Like, for how I look at it, the manga is very like focused and long term for the most part. Like, they end a lot of series actually end, and the creators move on. But in American comics, it's just the same characters forever. We run into problems where like is Spider-Man, isn't he supposed to be like 50 now or something like that?
Oh geez, he would be if time progressed normally in the Marvel universe.
In the normal universe, like he should be fit. Can you imagine like a 50-year-old Spider-Man? That'd be interesting. But yeah, so we run into those problems. But in pro wrestling as well, the storytelling, I feel the longer term is better. Some can be short, then you have to make adjustments when things happen. But I don't know. It seems like some companies have a better long term, or because Tony Khan talked about it. No, who was it? I think it was Hardy, and he talked about like they have like, hey, here's where we want you to be. How do you feel we get there? And then they work through the path of the character. So how you're friends with a lot of the guys in the area. Do they talk about how their characters develop?
They do, but it's more of like, it's just really because a lot of the wrestlers I know personally, it's something to have a passion for, but it's something where when you're working a lot of times with a company or a local promoter, they have a story that they want you to tell.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, like a lot of the creative freedom's there, but there is a set path that they got to go down. Okay. And I don't know how long term they get with their booking. I don't know how long term they would get with their plans. I know that that MPX does a decent job of knowing what they want to do several months in advance, but a lot of things happen that you can't account for. Like sometimes injuries happen, sometimes you get sickness, sometimes anything can happen. So just like with pro wrestling on a national level, you have all sorts of problems you can't account for.
Yeah.
You gotta be flexible and just to be able to roll with the punches. So
did you see what Osprey's doing did over in the UK? They're doing an empty arena show, and all the money raised during the live feed gets thrown to the performers, and they just split it evenly among everybody.
Wow.
It's like, let's do this, because I think they were supposed to have another event, but that got canceled. So I was like, all right, we're gonna do this live YouTube thing, only on YouTube. And he's like, I'm booking it right now. Like, I got a couple of things in mind. I know these are for sure. We'll see what happens, because he's just, because at that point it's like, who can you get? All of a sudden travel is becoming an issue. It's like, that's no good.
Yeah, that's something that you don't think about, but like right now this year, you think for WrestleMania weekend, the NXT events, it's supposed to be Finn Balor and Walter. How is Walter going to get over here?
Yeah.
How's Finn Balor going to get over there?
Because I've heard stories from family members. They said their friends go overseas and they're like, oh, now we're stuck. I think someone said they went to Vietnam and then suddenly their plane tickets got canceled and new flights were like $5,000 or something like that. Like, it was super expensive. I was like, what in the world just happened? And so, yeah, if you travel somewhere, that may be it. You're stuck. But it's really wrecking the indie scene. That sucks too. Like, WrestleMania is not just WrestleMania, right? Like, from when it came through Dallas, it was like a full week. You can start on Sunday, and then go to Sunday and like have wrestling every day. How much of that did you participate in any of that?
Oh man, like I don't participate in a lot of it, but I do see a lot of it going down. So whenever WrestleMania is coming to town, like the last time it came in and it was at the Cowboy Stadium over in Arlington,
Yeah.
like it was bonkers. We were thinking about going, but then like we saw some of the crowds and they weren't letting people get in, and we were like, it was a good decision not to try to go in because that place was packed like sardines, and people were just not happy at all with what was going on.
Oh, really? Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, I'm sure they were happy once they got into the building and they were actually able to start watching wrestling, but like they had some of the pre-show was going on and they still weren't letting people into the building from what I heard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it looks crazy. But yeah, I've noticed like WrestleMania lands, and then it's like there's a convention, and there's a bunch of little shows and medium shows throughout the whole week, um, and sometimes the week after, maybe
Indie
not.
wrestling explodes the weekend of WrestleMania too.
Yeah,
Like there's all sorts of cool stuff going on like the Saturday before, the Friday before, sometimes like you said the weekend after, the weekend before. It's crazy good. So,
all that business is gone now.
mm,
But they're trying. Like it's a good time to go buy some shirts, go buy some merch, which always feels like kind of the better way to do it sometimes because the work's done.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, great. It's like I already did the work. I already printed it. Just here, thank you. I need to pick up some new ones. So who like? Do you look at the shirt game and all the companies?
I I know about the shirts. I just don't know like who all the companies are, like what
Okay.
all the yeah.
So I look the AEW ones. I think are pretty good. They feel very rock band, very like metally. I think. Um, the WWE ones feels like a crapshoot sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hit or miss sometimes the shirt designs.
And sometimes they're like, oh, there's so many of them.
Hmm.
Do you think they're all they all have to be like pre on demand, right? At this point?
Yeah, but you know, I think what they need is they need good artists working for them.
Yeah. They I don't know.
They need wrestling art from wrestling fans.
That's true.
Yeah, and I think what they have are probably just a team of professional designers who've been given like a list of this is what this guy's about. Make
Yeah.
it for him, make a design for him.
At the same time though, is it really their fault? Like what kind of directions do they have? You know, and I feel they kind of play a very safe game, which is understandable for who they are. Um, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you gotta know, sometimes you gotta understand what like the character is. That's why I feel like a lot of fan art is really really good when you can call on nuances that no one else knows about besides like fans, like
Yeah.
little tiny things. um, there's a lot of it out there, but yeah, I think it's what I need. I think that the AEW shirts feel a lot cooler. I don't know, what do you think?
They they seem rock bandy.
mm.
Um I think the ratio of good stuff merch wise coming out, like they have a little bit better ratio because WWE will throw anything out there. I know that when they made merchandise for every NXT star that they had at one point, like some of that stuff was just like that's just that wrestler's name on a shirt. You know,
Yeah, I,
like
that was
like most
because they were launching NXT on USA,
yeah,
and they needed all the merch out, so it was
yeah, yeah.
quick.
And then there were some main roster stars that were complaining because they said they hadn't got new merch in like 2 years, and now all of a sudden everybody on NXT has new merch. So
I guess that happens, right? Well, that's the initiative when they're so reactive. I think NXT suffered a their launch could have been better on USA.
I think for what it was, I think they did a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, they knew they were going to have a show on Wednesday that was going to be wrestling, and so they came out 2 weeks before then, or was it a month before?
Oh, yeah, it
They
was earlier.
they preempted AEW and they launched, and those first couple of shows are really pretty good. And then whenever they started having competition back and forth, you could tell there were weeks where they stepped it up just to try to compete because they knew something big was going to be happening on the other station. It reminds me a lot of the way things used to be back in the '90s when I would flip channels back and forth
Oh,
between
yeah.
and TNT, watching either Raw or Nitro. So that was what got me into wrestling, was flipping channels back and forth and watching wrestling.
You need the competition, right? Like, to make it, like,
Hmm.
what I always say, steel sharpens steel. You always want to be people who are better than you, get better at it.
Yep, yep, for sure, for sure.
So let's wrap it up and talk about the zine that we're working on. Uh, it's called Suplexed. It's a pro wrestling fan art zine.
Hmm.
Uh, what pieces? I'll see if I can find pieces and load up on a gallery somewhere. We have a. What do we have? Oh, we have your double nothing piece, or double nothing piece, which we need to get signed by Cody somehow.
Yeah, the Cody and Dustin piece that we did, the Sting piece that we did.
Yeah, I gotta get that scanned in. Bat
Hmm.
Sting, right?
Yeah,
Crow Sting. Were you a fan of the Crow before that, or did you know of it
no,
before?
I didn't know about the Crow until after I knew about
Oh,
the Crow
okay.
face paint on Sting, because I didn't know what it was a reference to. And one of my older cousins, I was watching Nitro one night, and she was like, "What is the Crow doing on pro wrestling?"
Oh,
And
yeah, same here.
I was like, "That's not the Crow, that's Sting." And she was like, "No, that's the Crow." And I was like, "Okay." And that's when I watched the Crow for the first time, and I was like, "Whoa."
Yeah,
Yeah, it was really good, and that was how I got introduced to the Crow comic by James O'Barr, and I had that trade paperback for years. So
have you met him? Have you gotten it signed?
yeah, actually, that was one of my first convention
Oh, okay.
experiences back in the early 2000s. Was I took my trade paperback up to James O'Barr, and I told him, "I've been carrying this around with me since I was a kid." And he was like, "How old are you?" And I was like, "I'm 19." He was like, "You're still a kid. Never say that again." And he signed it for me, and he was like, "Take better care of your trade paperbacks." And I was like, "All right."
That's
So
fun.
yeah,
Let's see. Yeah, I gotta get that scanned in.
what else do we
Uh,
art wise coming for the zine?
I have a Balor piece. I got a Flair piece. I kind of have a Vader piece. I love Vader when I was a kid. He moved so well. It was amazing. And the headpiece was awesome.
I'm gonna put some more indie stuff in there, some local
Yeah,
stuff.
that'd be good.
So yeah, I'm working on some surprises. Some friends of mine might find themselves in a zine.
That'll be fun. That's gonna be fun.
I've gotten permission from a few people to go ahead and do some stuff. So
Cool.
I'm working on an Undertaker piece.
Yeah.
You've seen the layout for that.
Which one?
Uh,
Which Undertaker? Which Undertaker are you working on?
it's going to be like an undead Undertaker. He's going to be rising from the grave.
Okay.
So he's going to be like skeletal, almost zombie looking, and he's going to be reaching forward, and the glove is going to be ripped up, and the hat's going to be laying in a cemetery. Just cemetery candles, something really horror gothic looking.
Early Taker, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
There's so
And
many takers.
we got a lot of guest artists coming in too. Um, John David Guerra is going to be giving us some Nightmare Pro stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I think he's also going to be doing some other wrestling stuff. And I
Cool.
told him, I was like, look, bring it. I'm a big fan of his stuff. If there's any number of things he wants to put in there, we'll make room for it. I
Yeah.
talked to Andy Belanger, who is the cover artist for Boom Studios WWE comic, and he also did like a lot of stories for interiors as well.
Cool.
Um, yeah, he does amazing comic book work.
Yeah, I bet, dude.
But yeah, I've invited him. He said let him know as soon as we have like a for sure deadline, and he would get that in, get us in some work for it. So
Yeah, we'll see. The deadline was pivoting on a con, but that
oh, do
con
you think that's going to get delayed?
it keeps getting pushed. So we'll see. But I'm still aiming for it. I'm trying to get everything into production by June
Yeah.
1st.
Okay.
So that's the deadline for art to go into it. There's a little bit of wiggle room as always, but not a lot of wiggle room. And now who knows?
Mhm.
But I don't know. What else are you doing? I'm home.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was going to be not working at home for a couple weeks, and I was going to try to really crank out a lot of art, and found out that I might be working from home again. So I don't know if I'm going to be as productive with the art as I thought I was going to be.
Yeah,
So
it
we'll see
is.
what happens there.
It took me a little bit. It took me like a week to readjust my schedule and my space to get me on a groove. So
Yeah.
it takes a little bit. It's not bad. Get your own space. Like that's key. Get a workspace
Hmm.
and a timer. I go just like okay, 3 hours break, 3 hours break, 3 hours break.
That's
Works out.
smart.
Just take a little break because my office chairs aren't the best, so I got to take a little breaks here and there.
Yeah, I put like an extra blanket down on the seat of my office chair because it was just like this sort of fake leather chair that I
Oh
picked
no,
up in the
yeah,
office.
those go
So
pretty fast.
it's really good if you're sitting down for a couple of hours, like 3 or 4 hours in. It's like, man, this is like it's not being comfortable. It's like the futon of chairs.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, I have a sable piece that I'm pretty done on.
Mhm.
The infamous handprint bikini.
I think I know a friend who's going to want that from you.
I don't think I have an original. I have a digital. Maybe I'll work out something. It took me a minute to get those sparkles down. It's like, how do I do this glitter? But I think it took me a couple of passes.
Hmm.
I got a Balor Venom piece. I really like those old designs of his. I'm not sure if I like the WWE body paint as much.
You have a Darby Allen.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, that one looks really, really rad. I
Did
really
you
like that.
did you see the Archer promo from AEW?
Dude, yeah, yeah.
That's Darby's backyard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like apparently from according to Jericho, that's Darby's backyard. Like apparently him and Jeff Hardy are very similar. Like Jeff Hardy has like mountains for his dirt bike. Darby has it for like, his skateboard. Like they're both artsy. They both take high risk. He's like it's bizarrely similar.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Darby says he only has like I think I read somewhere he only want to do this for a couple more years, and get into directing.
Really?
Yeah, I rumors read online. Who knows? I don't recall where I had it. But I can see him doing it. You know what I mean? Smart thing to do. How long can you really do this career for especially his style?
I was gonna say, especially the way that he works, like
Yeah,
the stuff that he does to himself. Like, yeah, he's probably not gonna be in the game for too long.
you can't do that for very long. Like it's obvious. So if you can do it for a handful of years, get the most money. It's like anything else, like a UFC fighter, football guys. Like there's only a certain period of time in X amount of years where you can make the most amount of money, but after that you have to stop. So make the most money you can in that time period, and then check out. Because if you keep on a little too long, sometimes it gets a little ugly in a
That
lot of
could be
places.
true for a lot of careers, though.
That's a life advice on anything.
Yeah.
See what else I'm looking at. I'm just looking at the artwork that I have floating in my working pile. I have a AEW Triple H Broken Shrine.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious. And then I have the Eco Warrior Brian Danielson, which is a good one. I like that one. That belt was dope. Like, what do you think?
Dude, I really like that belt.
That was a good looking belt.
I hated that they retired it because it looked unique. But I understand. Like, Daniel Bryan was playing a heel at the time, even though the message wasn't really necessarily a bad message. Like, it was a good message to put out there.
He's just all the way on the other side of the spectrum at that point. It's like he's gonna be extremely judgmental. Uh, which have you noticed that with the Bucks?
The slight heel turn they're doing with the Bucks,
Yeah, it's
it's
like
not subtle at all. Like I really love that's been my favorite story from AEW. The Hangman Adam Page, like with him and Kenny as a tag team, and then the Bucks not getting along with them. Like that whole story has been the most intriguing for me. Like it's really well done, and Adam Page does a really great job of portraying himself in a way that's like it's really relatable. You know, the story is really relatable.
I, I wasn't sure about him losing to Jericho that first time was the smartest thing at the time, but now it's like, oh, this is brilliant.
If that was the setup for this, then I'm all for it.
It
Like
makes
that,
the it makes the most sense. As that's the only way we can be where we are with that outcome. Like once that outcome happened, like well, it could have gone other ways, but like to get where we are, that outcome needed to be that way. Like imagine if he won, it would have been totally different. Like it would have been a totally different storyline. You know what I mean? But this has been really, really good, and I don't know, and it goes back like they're very referential. You know what I mean?
yeah, they bring up the past, but their limited past. They bring it up a lot.
Did you notice that the Bucks hit Kenny with their Golden Lovers finisher,
Hmm.
and then Kenny just like kicked out right away? I was like, oh
Yeah.
damn, that was good. So do you agree with Meltzer? Did he give it like 6 stars?
Oh, like I think Meltzer is he's hyperbolic.
Okay.
He exaggerates a lot. Like they can have a good match, you know, but like I think sometimes when you overdo things, and you see it happen all the time, like sometimes having a really good move put someone away needs to be having a really good move put someone away. Sometimes when you kick out of something that's a finisher, it really like it makes people expect that you're always going to kick out of finishers now. Like it's really weird. And that's just like it's the Young Bucks style. They want to do things to the nines.
Yeah, that's I at this point I just what was them I expected.
Yeah,
You know?
I feel like you can tell a good story and end a match on a good move, and you don't have to just demolish each other to get the point over that you're going to have a good match or something. I think you can have a good match without killing all those finishers
Yeah,
left and right.
but it's fun.
It's fun sometimes, for sure.
It works out, and like oh, I need to do an Orange Cassidy piece. So what? How long do you think before they put the belt on him?
Oh man, I think if they do a mid card title, I could see that happening. I
Oh my
just
god.
I don't see it happening with the main title. I
Oh
don't think that.
really?
I think that if they change his character, I think it could happen. Like you saw him get a little bit serious in the match with Pac, right?
Yeah, that was a good
I
one.
think I think if he can transition into that character full time, then they can seriously move him up the card. But I think that if they keep doing the hands in his pockets thing, he's got a ceiling for himself. You know?
I wonder if you can upgrade the hands in the pockets, like that pose, and get more moves out of it now.
That's the thing. Like, I think if you had him as a cocky heel and then had him do the hands in the pockets thing sometimes to
Oh
try to get
wow.
over the opponent that he's that much better than them, and then he's doing that stuff, I think it really puts him on a different level than having him as like this guy that just doesn't care about wrestling, but
Yeah.
he's in wrestling, which seems to be his gimmick sometimes. Like he's a wrestler that doesn't want to be a wrestler.
Yeah. The King of Sloth style.
Yeah, slot style. Jeez,
But it's amazing how over he's gotten.
it is, and I think that part of that is the kind of crowd that AEW attracts, right? So there are definitely people in that crowd that do not care whenever there's a comedy thing going on, but there are a lot of members of that crowd that eat up every part of the show. And I think that
Yeah.
the energy that crowd has, I've been there for a live event. That crowd energy is amazing.
So How okay are you with them? Did you see the latest AEW Dynamite?
Yeah, I did.
Matt Hardy like teleporting.
I think that's the most wrestling thing that's ever happened.
Is that
Uh,
like? Are you okay with it? Like I heard some people were not okay with it.
uh, you got the Undertaker on WWE. The Undertaker teleported. You
That's
know, like
true. Yeah.
you can have crazy characters that have like absolutely unbelievable powers in wrestling, as long as that is considered to be like who that person is, and it's not just like a hokey thing. Like you can get away with having uh,
Yeah.
this character that is larger than life, right? Who is just a complete mystery and has supernatural abilities. That can totally happen in wrestling. That's been established. We've had that for years.
I heard somebody say like you can never replicate that with an audience, and I would disagree because I've seen people like David Copperfield. Like it's magic. If you're really good, if you get a really good stage magician, they can pull that off,
Hmm.
or something very very similar.
Maybe.
Because we've seen it. Like we've seen a lot of really good stage magicians. Like I think they can pull it off something similar at least with a live audience.
And in the same sentence, you got to say like sometimes I've seen some really poorly pulled off things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the reveal of okay, so everything about the reveal of the Exalted One would have been great, except that right before they showed that video package revealing Luke Harper,
Oh yeah.
you can see him walking out of the entrance ramp for
I
the heart.
I I saw that after you had told me, and I still didn't see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't pay. I wasn't paying. I was like, oh cool, and then I was like, wait, I didn't even notice it. Okay.
I think I'm just hanging around with people who have a really keen eye.
Oh
They're
yeah.
paying super close attention to everything going on.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, do you want me to ruin your life forever?
No, not
Uh,
really. Go ahead.
look at spacing between letters on signs.
Oh no, I pointed this out last night. We were watching. They're talking about some after show with Taz, where Taz talks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they have on the bottom part of the screen, right? They got this little graphic that says Taz's name on it,
Oh yep.
and on the graphic, it's TA, and the kerning before the Z hit was so far you could have kicked a field goal between it.
Oh weird.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like
See, because
sometimes,
usually between the T and the like T's are terrible. T's give you the worst spacing. A's are very problematic. Y's as well sometimes. But yeah, look at once you notice spacing between letters, like oh, damn it, everybody's terrible at it.
yeah, that space between the A and the Z could have just been like a space closer, and I would have been fine. But like you were talking earlier, how like sometimes with their T-shirts they knock it out of the park because it's very like rock star looking, right? Then when you get to like their on screen graphics, sometimes you see stuff like that, and you're like, oh God, get somebody in there,
Well,
get somebody.
it's because it's live. How long they been on? Like not even a year, right?
That's true. That's
It's a
true.
weekly show. It's been a year. They've had. I remember them having audio issues. It's getting better. They're learning as they go, and to me, at least, I see them learning. You know what I mean?
That's true. Like there are times that like I've seen really heavy criticism of things online, and then the next week it'll get addressed, and some things are not even a thing anymore because they realize that it's not working. So
Yeah.
they do take criticism very well in some instances. So
It's been is from what I've seen the interviews with Tony Khan. He seems pretty open minded,
yeah,
and like he's willing to like move along. He's a savvy business person. It's been listening to him like hustle has been interesting.
hmm I haven't listened to a lot of Tony Khan interviews. I do listen to a lot of MJF interviews though. I can't get enough of that guy. Like just the way he trash talks. I watched.
Oh my god.
Brandy has this cooking show, right?
Okay.
Uh, and she'll have like a different wrestler come on every week and join her, and they'll cook a dish together. And she had MJF on there one time, and they just had the sensor noise happening every 2 or 3 seconds while he was talking. and it was just hilarious.
That's funny. He never breaks. It could be him.
Yeah.
He's really good. He's been very enjoyable too.
hmm
What do you think of his heel turn?
I thought I thought they could have held out a little bit longer before they did it. Like
Same.
they could have they could have done a little bit more suspense, a little bit more build up. Maybe the shadow of the doubt plant the possibility that it was just misinterpreted or he didn't really mean to do that. But
Yeah.
they did it right then and there, and I was like, okay, well I'm fine with it still. Like
Yeah.
it's still happening, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was
But
still
yeah.
good. Like,
I
I
was
think
I
that
was I was in the same boat. I was like, okay, this is a little early, but then when I was like, okay, we're good. Now we're just. I guess at this point, it's like just let him be that way, and he'll if you kind of hold him back and make him try to hide it, under Cody's guise, it just doesn't work. Just no, just let him unleash him and let him
Mhm.
go.
Yeah, now that he's in full on heel mode, he's very enjoyable to watch. So,
True that. My wife didn't realize that Guevara, right? That's how you pronounce his name.
oh, Sammy, yeah,
Sammy. She didn't realize like Sammy was a heel because we
wow,
just because we just watch his vlogs and she's like he's such a nice guy.
oh, yeah. But I think like there's like a separation between like the video blogging
Yeah,
and who he is in the ring,
but
and
did he turn that into a thing on the show?
yeah, they had a little segment on the show where he was blogging on the show.
Yeah,
He was during a commercial break one time.
yeah. It's that's the other thing I like about AEW's stuff is like how they integrate modern social media platforms from their performers, from their wrestlers, uh, and they let them do it. It's pretty seamless so
Yeah,
far.
like it's different. Like WWE lets their wrestlers have social media accounts, and they let them post things from those accounts. But you never really see like outside of I want to say Tyler Breeze did it for a little bit, and every
Yeah,
once in a while they'll show a tweet from one of their mega stars, but you don't really see as much integration to the product as what you see in AEW. And I think that could be a double-edged sword too, because there are people that are just watching the TV show and they're
yep,
not watching a blog, they're not watching
yeah,
AEW Dark, they're not watching Being the Elite on YouTube. And I think there's a lot of character story stuff there that could really be used on the TV show.
yeah. But does it?
I
Like
think you can.
nowadays, does it? Like, because I how a lot of people consume YouTube, like and
Yeah,
Twitter and Instagram. Um, I guess at that point, your storytelling on the TV show needs to be pretty precise
that
or
and
concise.
I think you can do both, right? I think you can do storytelling on TV and you can do storytelling on YouTube. But I think that every once in a while, when you have something major happen on your YouTube show, you gotta do a quick recap of that on your main show because people aren't necessarily watching.
Yeah, that's true.
And I know that I complain nonstop whenever I have nothing but recaps at the beginning of Raw, right?
Yeah,
But it's different because that's stuff that was already televised versus the YouTube stuff wasn't previously televised.
that makes sense.
So I think that there are two unique consumers of that. You have one that's an online consumer and one that's a TV consumer. And sometimes there's some crossover, and the crossover fans are getting the whole deal, but that's not always happening. So you got to be
True.
really careful.
Because it makes sense. Because like Moxley showing up wouldn't be as big of a deal if it was just TV people. I think, especially when he shows up as Moxley, you're like, the crowd would not have been as hyped.
Right.
Because if it was like just a TV crowd, they're like, "What is Dean? Why is Dean wearing those weird pants? Why is he so angry?" But when he pops in, it's like, "Oh, this is Moxley." Yes,
Mhm.
I think it kind of reflects on their demographics that I've heard about. AEW seems to be pulling a slightly younger demographic with
It does.
under 36, I think.
Yeah, it pulls a younger crowd for sure.
And NXT is pulling a way older crowd.
I don't know if it's way over. I think that AEW's probably got higher numbers in the youth crowd, but NXT is consistent in the numbers for the above 30.
Yeah.
They're probably the same with AEW for both.
Okay. But I guess the audiences have been changing,
Hmm.
especially nowadays. Like it's you have Wikipedia.
Yeah, I think a lot of the good stuff about AEW is that it's making a younger audience, whereas there's not necessarily between the ages of like 12 and 18. There's not really a big audience for WWE because
Yeah.
they lose people after they lose that childlike wonder, and then whenever teenagers want to watch something, they want to watch something with a little grit. They want to watch something that's a little edgy. So I think AEW's got that market for that.
Yeah. I can see it.
Mhm.
Cool. So let's wrap this up again. We are doing a zine called Suplexed. I'll have the website up. I'll have links in the bottom down here, and there's buttons down here. You know what to do with them. I don't.
Down where?
I don't know. Somewhere down here.
Down here.
Somewhere in these corners. Have you read any of the pro wrestling books, their biographies?
What's the last one I read? I read Mick Foley's way
Oh,
back.
I need to catch up some new ones. I gotta find out what's out. See what's good anymore. Because then the last one I read was like Jericho's, or one of Jericho's. He's a multi-book person, I think.
One of my friends recommended Jericho's book to me, and I haven't read it yet. I probably should.
It's so not only I feel is good as a like a pro wrestling fan. If you're just trying to figure out a hustle and like how to hustle, it's the mentality that goes into it's very very similar across the board. Like working, you're young, you're early, you don't know what you're doing. You take cheap gigs to earn some experience, and hopefully at those cheap gigs, someone spots you or sees you. That get you a bigger gig, and you eventually end up on the main stage. Like it's true for a lot of different things.
Man, yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are in common in a lot of different career paths.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you see it all the time, like with conventions, right? You see the same thing that's happening in conventions. Sometimes will happen in pro wrestling.
Yep, stand up comedy, music, a lot of the arts.
Yeah,
Writing.
anything that's like a performing or art event,
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot of the same stuff going on with it.
Yeah, that's why I think as an artist, you can by reading into like sports or these kind of memoirs or these kind of biographies, you're like, okay, you can learn a lot of things about what to do, what not to do,
Hmm.
where to like re-gear your life. So cool. Alrighty, that's it for this one. Be safe. Like
Same.
we're almost through the week and we're back to the weekend. Hopefully you're in for quite a bit. Let me know if you need anything. Cool.
Shelter in place, social distancing.
Oh yes. Where they can find you online, Jonathan?
Instagram, J Mylar Art. That's my most active.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So find them on the Instagram, everybody. I'll put the links down below. Again, buttons. Hit them. Do stuff. Buttons up here, maybe.
Buttons. Pew 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 pew.
All
All
right.
right, man.
Later.
Later.